again, everybody, and welcome into a very special edition of the Shelby County High School Football Show, and it's state championship week. We've made it through the 2023 high school football season, and now the final week of the year. We've got state championship week, and a familiar face going to be playing in the Class 7A state championship game. Our last team standing, none other than the Thompson Warriors, and seems like just another tradition has been built here with the Thompson Warriors. Another step in this dynasty, really, and now it's can they close it out as they take on Central-Phenix City for the Class 7A state championship. The 6th year in a row that Thompson's been in this game, and the 5th year in a row that they could walk away with a blue map and claim the Class 7A state championship as the 4-time defending state champion. Alongside Andrew Simonson, I am Alec Etheridge of the Shelby County Reporter. Glad to have you on board for this state championship edition of the show. And Andrew, in just a couple of days, Bryant-Denny Stadium, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, we're going to get the biggest game of the year, the Class 7A state championship game. What's the excitement level like right now as we get number 1, Central-Phenix City, number 2, Thompson, the 4-time defending state champion for the state championship? This is what people have been building up all season long, and now we're finally here. What's that excitement level and anticipation like right now for this game?
Well, even though you expect this every single year now at Thompson, you have to still be excited for it because this is the biggest game of the season. This is what you play for every single week to get to this point, to play on the biggest stage under the bright lights and play for a state championship and to get another year added up to that wall that's behind us. And even though you do look at both of these teams, and at the beginning of the season, if you would have asked the experts and the coaches around the state, they would have told you that it would have been Thompson and Central down here at the end of the season, the number 1 and 2 teams of the season, trading those ranks throughout the year, and Thompson obviously getting to this point for the last 6 years in a row. So you do expect it. You do somewhat get used to it. But it's a state championship game. Everything means more here, and it just feels special every single year. And it has to feel special even more this year because the Warriors are playing for history.
Yeah, they could become the first team ever to win 5 state championships in a row, and we've seen a couple win 4 in a row. Obviously, the Thompson Warriors, the Hoover Buccaneers, they had that train stopped back in the early 2000s as they won 4 consecutive state championships. But this would be unprecedented territory to win 5 consecutive state championships. So a big opportunity here for Thompson. Could that be added pressure? We'll have to wait and find out. But knowing this team, knowing this coaching staff, they know how to get this team ready for a state championship game. They've won 4 in a row. They've been in this situation for 6 consecutive years. So they're not going to be lost when they get into this game. Some new faces to it, yes. But the majority of this team has been in this situation before, so we'll see if that has an added benefit for the Thompson Warriors. Been a while since Central-Phenix City has been there, but the last team to beat Thompson in a state championship game came 6 years ago. That was Central-Phenix City, and they won that one in dominant fashion. Obviously, that kicked off the trail of Thompson wins the next 4 years, but these two teams this year, the 2 best teams in the state, some think Central-Phenix City is the best team, some think Thompson is the best team. Well, the fun thing about that is we get to play it on the field and figure out which one actually is the best team come Wednesday night. But Andrew, you've got a Central-Phenix City team sitting at 12-0. You've got a Thompson team sitting at 11-1. The one blemish there, a 36-33 loss on their home field here to Clay Chalkville, one of the top teams in Class 6A. And they played well enough to win that game at times and ultimately walk away with a 3-point loss. But these 2 very good football teams, when you look at what they've done to get here to this point, what is it that sticks out to you about each of these teams going into this matchup?
I think it's just the completeness that each of them show on offense and defense. It's really hard to poke holes in either of them on paper just because of the depth that they show across the field, and it's the way that they've been able to do it for so much of the year. Obviously, it hasn't been easy for either of these 2 teams, but they've had times where they have made it look pretty easy and just dominated a lot of very talented football teams from around the state and gotten to this point where they can match up against each other and play for a state championship. So I think it's really going to come down to the players on the field and, more importantly, the coaches on the sidelines getting these 2 teams to this moment it's going to be phenomenal to see all this collection of talent gathered together under the bright Denny lights.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into it. I mean, let's break this game down. It's going to be an exciting matchup, and as you can see up over my shoulder here, Thompson has the plaques of the last 4 state championship years posted up there on their wall overlooking Warrior Stadium. Are they going to add 2023 to that list and make it a historic 5th state championship game in a row? We're going to find out soon, but let's jump in. Let's break down this game and talk about what to expect as we hit the Class 7A state championship matchup. Well, now that we've kind of broken down what's gotten us to this point, the number 1 versus number 2 team for the Class 7A state championship game, let's break down the matchup itself and what makes both of these teams so special going into this battle. And, I mean, they are the 2 best teams. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We've got the 2 best teams in the state vying for the state championship game this year, and they've both done it in dominant fashion at times. You look at this Central-Phenix City team, they've done it more consistently throughout the season on both sides of the ball, but Thompson done a little bit more consistently overall defensively, aside from that one blemish against Clay Chalkville, I think. So you look at them, though, on paper, and you've got 2 teams offensively. They look very, very similar what they're going to put out there, and defensively look very similar to what they're going to put out there. These are 2 teams that are basically going to throw themselves out there and say, you're going to have to beat us at your best. We know what you're going to do. You know what we're going to do. Now let's go out there and see who's the more physical team and who's going to make the big-time plays in this big moment. And you look at the season so far, Central-Phenix City scoring 44.6 points per game. The offense has been dynamite all year long. One of their lowest outputs actually came in the most recent game in the semifinal round of the playoffs as they win 21-7 over Mary Montgomery. As for the defensive side, you just heard they gave up 7 in the semifinals. Well, they're giving up just 12.1 points per game overall this season defensively. Thompson on the other end, they're giving up 10.2 points per game. Outside of that game against Clay Chalkville that they gave up 36, they've given up 14 or less in every other game. That is remarkable when you talk about Class 7A Region 3 and the opponents that you play there. And offensively, Thompson been consistent for the most part, but they've had a few games where they haven't been some mistakes, some penalties, things like that have prevented a lot of points in those situations, still scoring 38.6 points per game. So, Andrew, you hear all that. I blurred all that out there. You look at these 2 teams. What is it that sticks out about each of them going into this matchup and really is that highlight for those specific teams?
Well, I think for Central, it's a dynamicism on offense that they present. It was evident from week 1 where they really took the fight to Hewitt-Trussville, a team that obviously Thompson had a handily win against early on in the season, but also had a tight fight with them just last week and really established themselves with Andrew Alford at quarterback, with a 5-star receiver in Cameron Coleman as the team to beat on the offensive side of the field, scoring 44.6 points per game on the offensive side, and it's the variety of ways that they're able to do it. We talk about the variety and the depth that Thompson presents. Central has exactly that as well. A couple of physical running backs, a 4-deep receiver sheet. It's really hard to really point out ways where they don't succeed out on the field just because they've done it, and they've done it against some of the top teams in the state like Hewitt-Trussville, Auburn, Mary G. Montgomery, teams that we all considered to be some of the top teams in the state, and Central goes out and makes it look relatively easy week in and week out. And then over on Thompson, I really do think it's been the defense and what the secondary has presented in tandem with the front 7 when the pressure really gets going. The offense has really started to figure out their rhythm over the last few weeks, but it's been the defense that has been consistent week in and week out, and I really do think that they're going to make the difference with what they're able to bring from a pressure standpoint and how they're able to lock down even some of the tightest and best receivers within the county.
Yeah, it's just going to be an exciting matchup when you look at what these 2 put out there. And, I mean, to put it simply, the offenses for both of these teams are almost identical in how they're going to go about this game. You look at Central-Phenix City, 2 running backs with more than 600 yards rushing this year. They're physical backs. They're going to run the football in a physical way in this game. You switch over to the Thompson, 2 running backs that have been really good this year in A.J. Green and Mike Dujon. Those 2 guys are going to be very similar, but they've also got that burst of speed. If they can hit that gap and hit that hole, they're going to get away from you. And so that's what's impressive when you look at the running game. They both got 2 guys. You look at the passing game, well, guess what? Got Trent Seaburn here at Thompson. a guy that a freshman, he started the state championship game last year, set a 7A record for touchdown passes as an 8th grader. Now still just a freshman, is considered to be one of the best quarterback prospects in the country. On the other side of that, Andrew Alford, a guy that has been lights out this year, 3,500 passing yards, 45 touchdowns so far this season. He's going to be a dynamic player in this game that you're going to have an eye on to really set the tone if you want to win. And you're coached by Patrick Nix, a quarterback guru, a guy that's played quarterback at the highest level. So you know that he's going to be prepared in this situation. And then you look at the wideouts that he's got to throw to as well. 2 guys with more than 1,000 yards so far this season in Coleman and Dalen Upshaw as well. That's dynamic. That's dynamic what they've got there at the offensive side. But guess what? So does Thompson. And you look at what they've got out wide in Colby Hearn, in Deuce Oliver, in Colbin Landrew, who's probably been the breakout player for this team this year, and throw into the mix Angel Jones and a couple of others as well. This is a dynamic passing attack at Thompson. And you look at that, and that means that this is a matchup that both of these offenses are going to have some success at times. And typically, and we've talked about this a lot, at the high school level, if you can have 2 guys that can make plays out wide and then 1 running back who's good, you're going to spread the field enough already, and it's tough for defenses to be able to handle that. Well, in this situation, both these teams have at least 2 wideouts, at least 2 running backs, and a star quarterback. They're going to spread the field offensively. So then it comes down to which defense is going to be more prepared, and that's where I want to shift next, because I think, 1, Thompson's secondary can be a big factor in this game, but 2, the front 7. The front 7 for both of these teams going to have to set that physical tone and get pressure in the backfield early in this game, really put those offenses behind the chain, put that early state championship game pressure on the arms of the quarterbacks to be able to get out of some 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations. Whichever team, in my opinion, does that and sets that tone early is the one that's going to walk away with a win. So, Andrew, when you look at that, which of these defenses or what makes these defenses so talented, and how can they stop that opposing offense?
For Central, it's just their ability to shut down drives frequently and early. You see the low totals that they're able to hold their opponents on offense, and a phenomenal performance last week, only allowing 1 touchdown on Mary G. Montgomery, and really just establishing the tone just across the field. It's really been a key to why they've been so successful within this season. But I want to take a look at Thompson, because over the last few weeks, we've really seen a 3rd down defense that has come into play a lot of times throughout the game. There have been times where they haven't really gotten some success and haven't been able to get off the field from there, but when they're able to get off the field and quickly, that it's because of the 3rd down defense and the pressure that they're able to bring from that front 7, and a lot of that comes from what the performances of what the secondary is able to do, taking away options from this team and really being able to deliver both in coverage and everywhere on the field as well. Just a couple of dynamic cornerbacks in Caleb Harris and Anquan Fagans as well. You throw Peyton Lewis into there as well. This is a really deep Thompson team that knows how to get off the field quickly, and even when they have the pressure on them, they still seem to deliver. There were some drives last week where they could have easily folded, and they held firm and were able to get that brilliant second half and walk away with that victory. So I really do think that if Thompson is able to bring that effort early on and consistently throughout the matchup, I think you could really see life being made hard for Central-Phenix City. I can't guarantee that they'll be held to 7 or 14 points this game, but they will definitely be held to a lower total than we've seen so far this season.
I think that, these are 2 offenses that this game could get into the 30s, but if one of those defenses comes out early, or either one of them makes the decision that they're going to be the more hungry and determined team, then you could see one of the 2 struggle to score points in this game because their defenses are that talented, and that's what we saw from Thompson last year. They came out, they had an incredible game plan offensively, and you give a guy like head coach Mark Freeman a couple of extra days to work on an offensive game plan going into a big game like this, that's dangerous. Same can be said for Patrick Nix in that same situation, but defensively, they're going to be a little bit more well-rested, they're going to be fresh, and they're so talented on that side of the ball. If they can start fast up there in the front 7, make some big-time game-changing plays early in the game, that's going to be a huge factor in the long run when you look at the outcome at the end of the night. So we'll see which team can come out and really set that pace and set that tone early. But if you get off to a fast start in a state championship game and you put that kind of pressure on the opposing team to really have to dig out of a hole early, that's a lot of pressure to face when you're looking to win the biggest game of the year. But beyond that, these are two teams evenly matched, and to see the excitement level that you've got right now going into this matchup, Thompson's the 4-time defending state champion. Many people seem to think that Central-Phenix City is the more talented team this year. Do you feel like Thompson maybe feels that slightness at all going into this matchup, almost sort of a disrespect that some people across the state, the experts, tend to think that Central-Phenix City entering the season was the better team, and now going into this state championship game as the number 1 team still think that they're the best team, even with Thompson having won 4 state championships in a row?
I think that even if they don't, they're going to be made to think that by Coach Mark Freeman, coming with that underdog mentality with something to prove, which I think that they do after slipping back to that number 2 spot, having to prove themselves after that loss to a lot of people who maybe would have counted them out after that, and just continuing to improve within the shadows this season and just get back to this point where they can prove on the biggest stage that they are the better team against Central-Phenix City. Obviously, some people are going to favor them within this matchup. Coach Freeman might call that a little bit of rat poison, but you just look at these teams, and it's their experience here and the dynamicism and talent that they have all season. There's a reason that these two teams are here, and there's a reason this matchup is considered the best that we could possibly get. It's because these teams are so evenly matched, and they're going to present a very fun football game come Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I mean, it's literally the two best teams, and that's all you can ask for in this situation. They're both going to be coached hard. They're both going to have their best players ready to go, and that's what makes a matchup like this so exciting to watch. And I think ultimately you look at this Thompson team, and what it boils down to for them is how that defense comes out and plays. And I know I've harped on that a little bit, but you look at that Clay Chalkville team, and they almost just look just shocked at how fast Clay Chalkville was and how physical and big they were up front on the offensive line. And because of that, they struggled to stop the run. You knew what was coming from Clay Chalkville. They were going to run the ball every single time. And when they decided to throw it, it was baffling, and it made no sense, and ended up in an interception, ended up in incompletions, and it almost led to Thompson winning that game. But when they ran the ball, you knew it was coming, and they still were successful at it. So since then, and that's what we've said, Thompson really felt like, I think they felt good after that loss because they knew it wasn't going to get any more difficult from that standpoint moving forward when it came to a speed and physicality standpoint of what they would face the rest of the way. And I think they felt a sense of confidence after that because they knew they could only get better from there. Central-Phenix City going to present that next big challenge since then. And can Thompson be prepared for that up front defensively to stop that run game and really get pressure in the backfield to avoid any explosive and big-time plays? To me, that's what it all is going to boil down to in this matchup because I think both offenses are going to have their chances at success. Whichever defense comes out and plays better up front, going to have the better chance to win this game. That obviously means that the offensive line is going to have to be ready and play well also, and that's been something that could at times be inconsistent for both of these teams, but we've seen Thompson's offensive line really improve and grow throughout this season, and I think that could be something that really helps them in this situation. So we've broken the game down now. We've gone through just about everything that you need to know, the key players to watch in this matchup, kind of the key areas to face. So let's jump in now. We're going to head to our final segment of the show. We're going to give you our predictions and close it out as we get ready for the state championship game here on Wednesday night. That brings us to the moment, Andrew, and I know you've already posted your prediction story. A lot of people have already read that and know kind of where you're going to go here. But I want you to give me the reason for your prediction. And in that story, 35-28 is what you expect in favor of Thompson making history and winning a 5th state championship in a row. And you've already pointed out the rat poison could easily go the other way, too. I mean, we both think this could go either way. We literally were just sitting here off camera, still torn on which way our picks were going to go And that's what makes this game so exciting. And I'm still kind of torn, so I'm going to give it to Andrew to let him break his side of it down, and then we'll come back. I'll give you my prediction. But, Andrew, give me the reasoning that you think Thompson's going to walk away with this state championship win.
Yeah, and you can outline a million different ways for either of these two teams to win. It's because they're so successful on every side of the ball, and what we've seen from them this season, it's been nothing short of phenomenal. I just do believe that Thompson, they have that big game experience. They've shown over the last few years, and even against Central-Phenix City in the state championship game the last few years, they've been able to show up, compete in any sort of game under the bright lights, and exert themselves to a level where they're able to just take this matchup however it presents itself. And I really do believe that the talent that Thompson has just across the field is going to be able to do what it needs to compete. Obviously, it's going to be a tough test. Central-Phenix City, they're undefeated for a reason. They're the number one team in the state for a reason. They've got all the 24/7 sports recruits for a reason. And you just look at this matchup, and you can see so many different ways for both of these teams to win. But I think if you just look at the last few weeks, especially as Thompson has proven their mettle within the playoffs, it's going to come down to consistency. A little bit of a shaky start the last couple of weeks against Vestavia Hills and Hewitt-Trussville. A couple of teams more on the level of Central-Phenix City than what we've seen at other times throughout the season. But once they make those adjustments, once they start clicking, they're very hard to stop. So if this team comes out, gives their effort for all 48 minutes, and shows what they're able to do in basically every aspect of the game, then I still think it's going to be close. I stand by that 35-28 scoreline. I think the defense is going to find its moments, get off the field for a drive or two. I think the offense is going to put up the points that we've seen this year, but ultimately, I think that Thompson's going to have the edge because they've been here before, they've shown it, and if they play their brand of football for 48 minutes, I think that they've got the edge.
Yeah, I mean, build off of that a little bit while we stall a little longer for my prediction and pick as I still make up my mind. But, no, seriously, I mean, look at that, and we talked about it, the defense coming out and getting off to a fast start, but you just mentioned it. This team, it's like they flipped that switch somehow at a certain point in the game, and they realized, man, we got to wake up. And then all of a sudden, they can't be beat. But we did see in the playoffs, in the regular season at times, that they start a little bit slow. So how important is it truly? I mean, is there a chance they win if they get off to a slow start? But off of that, if they start this game like they finished the last few, I mean, they're almost unbeatable.
Sky's the limit if they go for all 48 minutes. And it's scary because we haven't really seen them in a game this year go for all 48 minutes. They're either leading so much by halftime that they basically have to throw in the second team, or they get off to that slow start against some of the top teams and they have to go and recover from that as well. So we maybe haven't seen this team's true potential. Either of these two teams either. I really do think that they're going to shine at their best when they're matched up against each other. But I do think that Thompson, when they're doing everything and when they're doing everything right, there's a lot of things that they're able to do well, and they just match up well against pretty much every team in the state that we've seen so far. Obviously, there's talent all around the field for Central-Phenix City. You just look at the players and where they're going to end up next year and in the coming years on Saturdays, and the talent that they've shown on film, the stats that they've given on the field. It's easy to go in and favor these teams, and it's obviously easy to be torn like you are right now, but I really do stand here after what I've seen of Thompson so far this season. I just have to have confidence in what I've seen so far of being able to get it done when the moment is at its brightest, when the lights shine the brightest. This team shines as well, and I really do think that the Warriors are going to walk away with that title.
I think you hit on one of the big things for me, and that's if they play a full game, they're going to be tough to beat. And when you give a team that's experienced with state championship players extra time to prepare and focus on the game plan, implement new things, that's what makes them dangerous. They're led by a head coach who's won 4 consecutive. He's won more beyond that in his career. And to me, that's what makes them dangerous. And I'm not kidding when I said I was torn. This is our second time shooting the show today. And first time I was leaning toward going with Central-Phenix City. And there was reasoning behind that because they are so talented, but I've shifted that thinking. And the reason is because of the experience that they have in these situations. When you give, and it all boils down to what I saw last year. You gave them extra time to prepare with an 8th grade quarterback leading your team, and they came out and they just dominated from start to finish. And I do think they feel a little bit slighted this year. I think that they feel a little bit disrespected. They've won 4 in a row, and people think Central Phenix is no joke. They think they are the best team, and I think that they easily could be the best team this year. And I think that's a motivating factor for this Thompson football team, and they're hearing that every single day for a week and a half straight as they prepare for this state championship game. And you give this type of talent, this type of coach, with the experience they have in these situations, the time that they have to prepare for a game like this. And ultimately, I think that that is exactly what is going to lead Thompson to the win in this matchup. Offensively, they've got just about everybody back from last year, a few offensive linemen and a couple other players that are not there this year. But they've got so much talent back that came out and just lit it up on that side of the football last year. Central-Phenix City going to be a little bit more of a test this year, but that's going to be an exciting thing to watch when you look at this offense and some of the things that they're going to implement going into this matchup and the extra time to prepare with an offensive guru of a head coach in Mark Freeman. Ultimately, I think that is what makes the difference. I think Thompson going to win a great football game here. I think both of these teams are going to go back and forth in this matchup, and would not surprise me in the least if we see Central-Phenix City win this game. But at this stage, at this point, Thompson's won 4 in a row. They're playing for their 6th, playing for their 5th in a row. Until somebody beats them, I kind of came to the conclusion, how can you go against them? And if Central-Phenix City goes out there and beats them, they've earned it, and they deserve that credit. And then they deserve to be the team that people favor going into next year. But right now, you got to knock them off. You got to knock off the team that's won 4 consecutive state championships, and so far, nobody's been able to do it since Central-Phenix City did it 6 years ago. So we'll see if they're able to make that happen again. But right now, we've got to see it happen. Thompson has proven it 4 years in a row. They're going to have a chance to do it for a 5th year in a row. We both think they do it, and I think we both think they do it in one-possession games, and would not be surprised if it goes the other way. And like we said, it could be that slow start. If they get off to a slow start, that could make the difference. And Central-Phenix City is a team that will capitalize on that and will not slow down from there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. These two teams are incredible, and I can't wait to see how this matchup unfolds. Will the Thompson Warriors make history in the state of Alabama with their 5th consecutive Class 7A state championship and state championship in general? We're going to find out on Wednesday night inside Bryant-Denny Stadium in this epic battle. We had the game of the century several years ago with LSU and Alabama. It kind of feels like that. This is one of the best games we will see in a state championship matchup, I think, in a long time and for a long time to come as well. We'll both be down there. We'll have our Facebook Live pregame show live from Bryant-Denny Stadium on Wednesday night before that game, and we'll have our coverage throughout. We'll have story, photos, and video coverage at the end of the night as well. So we'll see if the Thompson Warriors can make school history, make state history, and win a 5th consecutive state championship here on Wednesday night. For Andrew Simonson, I'm Alec Etheridge. Thank you all for tuning in all season long. Don't forget our all-county team coming up here shortly as well in a couple of weeks, so be on the lookout for that. But we just appreciate you all tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe here on YouTube, across all of our social media platforms. We appreciate your support and couldn't do it without you. We'll see you all on Wednesday night from Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa.